talk about the freezer. Hello and welcome to Meals with Maria. Today we're talking about pantry meals. We have some meals that came from the deep depths of the freezer. My freezer is always like jam-packed. As you know, that's how I shop. I'm always buying things that are on sale. I'm using my freezer as a temporary storage, but sometimes things get shoved way down the bottom, so we need to clean those things out. So this video is 4 different dinners that we had that came from the depths of the freezer. We made some great stuff. I found some roasts in there. All right, someone woke up early from his nap. Poor guy. Poor guy. It's okay.
Poor guy.
I have an awesome roast recipe in here for you for a very cheap cut of meat that tastes delicious. We're also gonna have burgers and veggie burgers and cook some shrimp up in a stir fry. So I think there's some great recipes in here for you. Those are the kind of things that I usually kind of get stuck in the bottom of my freezer. So I'm hoping this helps you with the things that get stuck with in the bottom of your freezer. This first recipe is for a bottom round roast, which is one of the cheapest cuts of meat that you can get. It's a delicious roast if you cook it right, so it can be tough. It probably has a bad reputation because it literally comes from the bottom of a cow, but when you cook it like this and you slice it thin, it is absolutely delicious. As you can see, I had just dried off my roast since it had defrosted, and then I have a 1/4 cup of melted butter, or kind of melted-ish. It actually worked out perfect that it was just very soft. I'm adding 1 teaspoon of dried rosemary. If you have fresh, absolutely go for it. That would be perfect too. You want about a tablespoon of minced garlic. As always, I think you could substitute garlic powder and mix to combine. Now the recipe actually calls for an oven safe skillet, but I didn't have that, so at first I thought I would use that 8x8 pan, but I decided to use this glass Pyrex instead. So you want to take your patted dry beef and rub the mixture all over the roast and cover it as much as you can. You want to preheat your oven to 500 degrees and then place the roast in the oven for 7 minutes per pound. My roast was 3 pounds, so I did 21 minutes. At this point, turn the oven completely off and leave the door closed for 1 hour with the roast inside. Then you want to turn the oven on to 200 degrees and cook for approximately 1 more hour. As you can see, while this is all happening, I am going to make some mashed potatoes. So I have about 2 pounds of baking potatoes. I peeled and quartered them, then placed them in a salted pot of boiling water and cook them until tender but still firm for 15 minutes. Drain your potatoes, add 2 tablespoons of butter and 1 cup of milk. Salt and pepper to taste. Do not go shy on the salt. If you're tasting your potatoes, they don't taste quite right, it's probably a lack of salt. Potatoes really absorb salt. Now the great thing about this is that although these potatoes were not in the bottom of my freezer, they were in the bottom of my cabinet and they needed to be used. So this was a great meal to use up some of the things that I already had. I'm using a hand masher, but another great way to make potatoes is with an electric mixer. For this meal, I also grabbed a can of corn, just placed it in a microwave-safe bowl with about a tablespoon of butter. I'm going to put that in the microwave for a couple minutes, and that's going to be our vegetable. This is what the beef looks like when it comes out. So delicious, so crispy on the outside, but as you'll see in 2 seconds here, it is still tender on the inside, and it tasted so good. My husband is like a tender meat guy, loves a ribeye, so I was a little nervous what he was going to think about this roast beef, but he thought it was fantastic. He's like, no, there's tons of flavor in it. It tastes really good. So this was a winner in my book, something great when you can find it on sale. And I was able to make roast beef sandwiches out of it the next day. I like mine with just like bread and mayonnaise and like nothing else, but you could definitely do like a steak and cheese, or you can beef it up with some tomato and lettuce, or put some barbecue sauce on it. Either way, it's still so good. This beef was awesome, and this recipe I would 10 out of 10 recommend. And yes, I realize I probably need to sharpen my knife. I'll sharpen it today. Okay, freezer organization, not necessarily my thing. We have a lot of stuff in here. And on this particular night, my husband was working late, so I was like, all right, got to grab something for the kids. What am I going to find? Burgers. These were left over from the summer, and I'm like, we got to eat them. You know, a little freezer burn, it should be fine. I also had some veggie burgers that I knew had been in there for a while, and I kept meaning to make those. So I figured, you know what, the kids love burgers. I like a veggie burger. Let's just make both of these things, and it will be perfect for us on a night like tonight. Now, it had also occurred to me that I did not have pellets for my grill because we have a pellet grill, and I was going to have to cook these either on the stovetop or in the oven. So I looked up a specific recipe to bake these in the oven, and I thought it turned out really well. I preheated my oven to 425 degrees, grabbed a baking pan, and put a wire rack on top of it. Now, it's important to note this recipe is specifically for frozen burgers in the oven. If you want to season your burgers, now would be the time to do so. And then we're just going to place these burgers in the oven in the center rack for 25 minutes. So we're going to flip them about 15 minutes through. As a side, I just grabbed some carrots and some ranch dressing, and I was going to do carrot sticks with ranch dressing. Very simple. At the 15-minute mark, I also decided to put my veggie burgers in, so I was able to cook those right alongside the burgers for the rest of the time. Just add cheese on the ones you like for the last couple of minutes, and you can see that Ben was a huge fan of the burger. This is the first time he had ground beef, and here are the kids' burgers with their carrot sticks, and everything turned out great. I had my veggie burger with a little bit of cheese and a little bit of this honey sriracha sauce that was absolutely delicious. The next recipe is for an Asian noodle bowl with shrimp. Now, I had these rice sticks or this vermicelli noodles forever because, I don't know, I think I ordered one thing and they gave me another. And I also happen to have some shrimp sitting at the bottom of the freezer, like ready to go. So that was the perfect opportunity to use both of those things. Well, my shrimp are defrosting. I'm just going to grate up some carrot. You need about a quarter cup of grated carrot. And I think I've talked about this before. When I'm just grating carrot like this and we're going to cook it, I just leave the skins on and I'm not going to peel them. But if I'm eating them, like raw, I am going to then peel them. And then you also need 3 cloves of minced garlic. As always, garlic powder will do here too. The recipe also calls for 1 chopped zucchini, but I did not have a zucchini, so I'm not adding that today. I also think it would taste delicious if you had mushrooms or some red pepper. You want to whisk 2 eggs and a teaspoon of sesame oil together and then set that aside. For the sauce, we're adding a half a cup of soy sauce to 2.5 tablespoons of brown sugar, and then you could add 1 to 2 tablespoons of chili garlic sauce, but I'm not, just because my kids are definitely not going to go for that. That is way too hot for us. And then 1 teaspoon of freshly grated ginger, or in my case, I'm using ground ginger, which turned out great, but both would be absolutely fine. I love a recipe like this because I already had everything that I needed on hand and I did not have to go to the store to buy anything specific. You want to make sure that you have raw shrimp and that they are peeled and deveined. Mine were not peeled and deveined, so I did have to manually do that. It's definitely not my favorite thing in the world, but I do think it saves you money when you're buying the shrimp. The recipe said to soak the rice noodles according to the package, and my package did not have a soaking method because I think they were a different type of rice noodles than was originally recommended. Either way, I did just decide to put them in some warm water and let them soak in there, and they actually turned out perfect. So while I am cooking my shrimp and getting everything ready in the wok, I do have the noodles over in another bowl soaking in warm water. I'm going to put about a half a tablespoon of oil in a wok or skillet over medium-high heat. And then you want to add half of the shrimp and then season that with salt and pepper, whatever you choose. You want to cook it through about 30 seconds to a minute, so it does not take very long on each side of the shrimp in order to cook it. And then once you're done with that first set of shrimp, do the rest of it and take both of those and put them in a plate off to the side. At this point, you want to add in your carrots and any other vegetables that you're using. You're going to stir fry these for a couple of minutes, and I actually added my garlic a little bit early, but you may want to wait that 2 minutes and then add the garlic and stir fry for another 30 seconds. Once that's all stir fried, push the vegetables to the side of the wok, and you want to add in your egg and sesame oil mixture. Scramble until cooked and then mix to incorporate into the vegetables. Toss your drained rice noodles into the wok, and then we're going to add the sauce and turn up the heat and bring it to a boil to stir fry for about 3 or 4 minutes. And this should make your noodles tender. So you really just want to cook this as long as you need to make sure that those rice noodles get tender. Add your shrimp back to the wok and toss to combine. You can finish this off with some toasted sesame seeds and sliced scallions. Now, I didn't add the scallions on because my kids are not huge fans, but I did put them on the side and serve them with our meal. This particular night, I had my mom over for dinner, so it was really fun. She really, really enjoyed the recipe. You can see that I added my scallions there, and everyone had a great time. The kids enjoyed it. My mom was like, I gotta get this recipe. It's so good. Okay, for this freezer meal, I pulled out an old as can be chuck tender roast that definitely needs to be in. And then one time I was trying to order a chuck roast and I ended up with this weird thin slice thing. It was like the last they had of something. So I guess I'm gonna throw this in there too. We're gonna do a Mississippi pot roast. That's my favorite way to cook pot roast. I've tried a bunch of different ways and honestly, I don't know. I'm just obsessed with the Mississippi one. So good news is I found these pepperoncinis. When I saw these on sale at Walmart 50 cents, I was like, yes, please. So I bought all the ones that they had. And these have been sitting in my cabinet as well. So 50-cent pepperoncinis, pulled those out of the pantry. I always have this ranch stuff on hand and I get that at BJ's when I go. But I think you can make your own too. And I've always threatened to make a video on that. Threatened, like it's a threat that I'll make a video on that. But maybe someday I will, but I still have this. So I'm going to use this. I've got my 1/4 cup of butter. And this is like brown gravy mix. It says to use au jus, but I don't know. I have brown gravy mix from Dollar Tree from who knows when. Found that in the old cabinet too. So we're going to cook up a Mississippi pot roast. It's going to be delicious and it's going to be from the bottom of the freezer meal. If you haven't made this recipe before, you've got to try it. So you put your meat in the bottom of the crock pot, then you put your au jus, and then it says like 5 or 6 pepperoncinis, but I'm a pepperoncini fan, so I usually put the entire container because why not? You do want to make sure that you drain them, but you want to put the pepperoncinis all in there. And then you want to put 1 packet of ranch, which I actually forgot to do and did later off camera, so don't worry, I did add the ranch, and a 1/4 cup of butter. You cover that up, cook it for 8 hours, and this is how it turns out. It is so good, fall off the bone. I mean, there's no bone in it, but it's very, very tender. And we serve this with some rice, and I actually have that rice in a video that I'll put at the end screen here if you haven't seen it. 3 different ways to cook white rice. And I want to thank you all so much for watching this video. I appreciate you all so much. Make sure to like this video so you can get some more pantry meals, and subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything, because I'm posting 3 times a week and we've got some great budget meals coming up. So thank you so much, and I'll see you all very soon.
Like you, I would watch the days go by, wasted in blue. I was out of use. Now every day